Matthias Schranner, could you tell me what a hostage negotiator has in common with a private banker?
As a hostage negotiator, you have to negotiate against someone who will start a negotiation with high demands and no cooperation. And this is similar to your business or to the financial business. A lot of clients, they start a negotiation with high demands without any cooperation. And then you have to approach the client in a different way, not in a win-win oriented way.
So private bankers have to be a lot more capable of conflict, is what you're saying?
They have to love the conflict and they have to be prepared for a conflict, because most bankers I know, they try to avoid a conflict in a negotiation. So based on my experience, it's important to focus on a conflict. Sometimes you have to create a conflict.
That's interesting. How do you create a conflict?
If you come up with your demands and offering no cooperation. Very important, we need to separate, let's say, the strategy of a negotiation and the tone. The strategy could be like a hostage taker, high demands, no cooperation. The tone is always very friendly, always very polite.
Now we're talking sort of in general about private banking clients. I was curious about the ultra rich, which is kind of the newest hunting ground for a lot of the international and Swiss private banks. Is conflict any different in that segment?
These guys, they love conflicts because they are very successful because they never avoided a conflict. And so based on our experience, these guys, they want a partner, not a consultant. A partner is challenging, is more a sparring partner, is coming up with their own demands and to challenge the clients.
Okay, so they want somebody who's responsive and not afraid of a little bit of a fight.
I wouldn't say responsive. It's more coming up with their own demands, creating a conflict, always asking for more, driving the negotiation, always in this driver's seat. And these clients, they want to be challenged.
They want to be on equal footing.
Exactly, on eye level. Yeah.
Now what about in families, in these wealthy families or groups, clans, things like that? How can a private banker who might be between two fronts, two conflicting fronts, kind of keep his own interests and also really not risk a conflict or being drawn into the original fight?
Bad news, it's not possible. You have to clarify your role in this negotiation process. Are you a negotiator or are you a mediator, meaning that you try to find a solution between the parties? If you're a negotiator, then you have your own interests, then you start a conflict, then you have to negotiate. If you want to step in as a mediator, then you need to find options between two parties. It's a completely different role.
Would you recommend sometimes that in these very bitter fights, private bankers just find an external advisor to mediate?
Definitely. The question is how and when to involve this third party. Based on our experience, first of all, you need a deadlock scenario. That means both parties, they come up with their demands, no cooperation at all. And in this deadlock scenario, then you can ask a third party to find a way between these positions.
What if there's no agreement?
That's great, because if there's no agreement, that's the ground for a conflict. Then you are forced to come up with new ideas, with more creativity, to find new options. So if there's no agreement, that's not the end of a negotiation, it's the starting point.
I understand. Now, you're German, a former hostage negotiator, and you've chosen to set up your business in Switzerland, which of course enjoys a very rich and long history of diplomacy and a rich diplomatic tradition. Yeah. Would you say the Swiss are a little bit hesitant to get into these kind of more combative or fighting situations?
I think the approach in Switzerland is very win-win oriented. Conflict avoiding oriented, which is great and which works in a lot of cases. It doesn't work with Mr. Trump, for example. If someone is coming up from a different culture, like the American culture, which is very conflict oriented, it's more like win-lose scenario. In these cases, then you have to accept this approach and you have to start with win-lose by yourself, meaning if a client is challenging you, then you shouldn't avoid a conflict. Then that you want to fight, be my guest, you will get one.
Can Swiss people be encouraged to be a little bit more combative?
I think they have to. They have to. And it doesn't mean that you are unfair or that you are using tricks. Hardball negotiation is just, so our understanding of a hardball negotiation is that you have high demand, that you know what you want, and that you are ready to compete, that you are ready to state your demand, offering no cooperation at the beginning, and that you don't avoid this power struggle at the beginning. So based on our experience, win-win is at the end of a negotiation, but it's never the starting point.
Very interesting. Something for the private banking industry to think about. Matthias Schranner, thank you very much.
Thank you.